nonsense malaise or unspecific devastation, and the constant feeling that something was desperately wrong, but it didn't attach to a specific cause. He found that he had a knack for sniffing out crime scenes. He could follow the light of a street lamp reflecting off water spilled across blacktop and could develop a sense of how the night ran its course. It was a psychic connection, though he felt an allegiance with the perpetrator. He never had a sense of who the victim might be, where or how they were comforted after that chance encounter, held by grieving hands or sterile latex. He just understood that something had occurred. He couldn't tell the difference between sex and death, but was overcome by their possibilities. He tried to reconcile his thoughts with facts and clues, but his most intense feelings couldn't be explained, only followed. When his family moved into the city, he had to map the lessons of the outside onto the new space around him. He couldn't transform the brick planters filled with blooming animals placed for pleasant patterns of color into the raw and ragged vision of the Green River playground. He preferred the smell of desperation, rot, urine, feces, faces washed with borax, in gas station bathrooms, the remains of sex, sweat and grease. He liked panties after the sheen had been worn away, filthy, streaked, no lace. He liked panties that had been merely functional until they were discarded as unnecessary accessories, a social convention that had become too weighty. He could translate the geometric patterns of brick and fire escape into the canopy of oaks and alders, walking through potholes filled with sludge, the smell of wet dirt and chemicals he could never identify, the forgotten backsides of forgotten buildings, monuments of abandonment, and there was comfort. Where everybody failed, he found a space without expectations. He let his thoughts wander until the image in his mind became real. It could be touched only to disappear into the sound of a distant crash, approaching footsteps, the blink of an eye. His favorite was a composite of a small child remembered from years before, the yellow flower dress of a teenager down the hall, the hair from a scene in a movie remembered from a commercial. He couldn't bring that narrative into it, just his own. He sat close by, watching her with a puppy or a baby doll, something small that held her attention but was concealed by her hands. Maybe it didn't matter. The blonde hair went to mid-back and was caught somewhere between curl and tangle. The dress, occasionally threadbare summer fashion, lace frayed and falling. Tiny yellow flowers and green stems were placed with gentle regularity. He couldn't explain why, but those were the real tragedy. He approached her on the step, though he was still sitting, staring into the alley, occupying half the space where he imagined her body. He concentrated on details and brought them into focus, the way a few tangled strands caught the light, a spider's web, the nervous, anticipatory fumbling of fingers against fingers as the contents of her hands disappeared, the shine of her tears over the dark semicircles beneath her eyes. He felt her hair against his hand, though neither his real nor imagined self made a move to touch her. The feeling was just there. His eyes met hers with the shared longing of a last goodbye. He wanted to feel the sensation of a kiss, but it wouldn't come, no matter how hard he tried. He went into a rage as if something inside him came from without to deter perfection. He punched her in the face, hard then harder. He never moved. She never broke or bled, just looked at him with that same need for answers she knew he could never provide. The first hit was the weakest, a warning to them both, but she didn't respond with tears, screams, shock, or blood, so that was permission. Then she was out, placid, sleeping, not dead, but similar. He used her hair, rough as jute, to tie her head to the railing of the stairs, where he sat staring at the scattered debris in the alley. As soon as she was locked into place, she awoke, squirmed and thrashed her body against him. She gave all the physical signs of screaming, but not the sound. That couldn't escape. The alley was a vacuum that held everything inside. Thank you for coming